The Brazilian GP is going to be really difficult to predict. I mean, there's a lot of technical issues that come in the last few races of a Formula One season that are coming to head. One such thing is power units, and Max Verstappen is taking a 5-place grid penalty because Red Bull is opting for a new power unit. It's going to be his 6th power unit, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how that plays into the whole penalty system and his prospects for the Brazilian GP here in a second. First, I want to talk about Ferrari. Ferraris need to lift and coast during long stretches during the race. It can't be fixed. It's not going to be fixed until the new regulations in 2026. So what's that mean? That means over the next 4 races, the Ferrari cars are going to be a little bit slower than what the SF25 really ought to max out at, because they're going to have to lift and coast. And if they don't, you saw it during Lewis Hamilton's race a couple of races back where the brakes completely went out on the car. That's got to be a bit frightening when your car goes over 200 miles an hour. So the team from Maranello, they have completely abandoned any further evolution of the SF25 except for minor adjustments already planned for specific track layouts. In 2026, we will see the electric motors providing, I want to say, like 50% of the power, and internal combustion providing the other 50% of the power. And because of that, you're going to have a lot of electric motor braking. That electric motor braking is going to cause a lot of the regeneration. And because of that, Brembo, who is the brake provider for Formula One, is saying that they're getting vastly different designs for rear brakes for the coming season. And if you don't recall, or if you don't know how Formula One works, you know, the formula is literally, you know, all the different regulations and specifications for the vehicles, and each team reads the regulations, and then they build the cars based off of those. You know, that's why the majority of Formula One cars look really, really similar until you look at the specific details, and then that's when they start to kind of separate. As a matter of fact, let me read you just one paragraph. I don't envy Formula One engineers their jobs, but let me read one paragraph. As for the brake discs, the main regulatory changes concern their dimensions. The front brake discs may now be larger, with the maximum diameter increased by 15 millimeters, while the rear discs will retain the current maximum diameter, but will have a maximum thickness of 34 millimeters. That's up from 32 millimeters all the way through 2025. The minimum diameter of the cooling holes in the discs will also be reduced from 3 to 2.5 millimeters. That's wild. I almost fell asleep reading that. Like I wanted to get up and just go for a run or something, because that is way too much detail for my brain. But this is how, you know, constructors championships are made. And I can see definitely why McLaren is so proud of winning 2 constructors championships in a row. But guess what? You got to win the drivers, because that is what the fans care about. I mean, that the drivers championship is kind of huge. McLaren really needs to pull it together. And it is still not guaranteed, even with the grid penalty that I spoke about for Max Verstappen. I'm going to talk about why. Power units. 20 Formula One races, 20 Grand Prix have been run this year, and all of the power units are starting to show signs of wear, and this is bringing teams closer to needing to change out the power units. Here's why it's significant. So the first power unit change, the first infringement, the first time the team goes over the allotment of 4 power units per car. So basically, when you get a 5th power unit, you get a 10-place grid penalty. And then subsequent infringements, that is a 5-place grid penalty. And then if penalties accumulate 15 or more places, basically on the third one, on the third infraction or infringement or whatever, the driver is sent to the back of the grid. Now, Max Verstappen is going into his 6th power unit, which means that he's already done the 10-place grid penalty. He did that back in Belgium. Now he's going for a 5-place grid penalty in Brazil, but Brazil seems to be one of the best places to opt for a penalty over the next few races, or of the remaining 4 races, because Brazil has the easiest time overtaking. One of the key illustrations of that choice is Brazil in 2021. Lewis Hamilton famously took a 10-place grid penalty, so he started in P10, and because of overtakes, clearly he finished in P1. Now, with the ground effects regulations being in place, it is a lot more difficult to overtake. So, who knows if Verstappen is going to be able to go from P5 to P1, but he only has to do 50% of the overtakes that Hamilton did back in 2021. So, there is some hope. Now, unfortunately for Ferrari, and we just spoke about Ferrari's brakes, Leclerc might have to take his first power unit penalty in Brazil. And with the lift and coast problem that Ferrari already has, and then you add on to that the fact that it's more difficult to overtake, and then you add on to that the first penalty is 10 places instead of 5, I don't see things going well for McLaren in Brazil. Now, the good news is, just like tires, once you get a fresh, power unit, you're going to have, some better performance. So maybe, just maybe, that gives Ferrari a little bit of a boost over the next, over the last 3 races, or at least Leclerc anyway, over the last 3 races. But in Brazil, he's definitely going to suffer. Now, it's a little bit of a different story for Verstappen, because the Red Bull car is already performing, pretty well. It's a race-winning car. Add that to a fresh power unit, and the competition between Red Bull and McLaren is going to be pretty stiff. McLaren has gone through 4 power units, and I'm sure that they would like to not have to change out the engine. But if it happens, it's going to put either Oscar Piastri or Lando Norris in an unfavorable situation, because both McLarens are on 4 power units, and those power units are both getting a little bit older. So the Brazilian GP, who knows who's going to take it, but I wouldn't count out any of the top running teams. Well, any of the top running drivers, and by that I mean Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, and Max Verstappen. It still remains to be seen if Oscar Piastri can get over his performance slump of late and get the ball rolling and reignite his championship hunt. But I guess we'll see here in a few days. And then, of course, Williams Racing, who began their campaigns, who had their first Formula One race in 1977. They are doing a rebrand, and it's going to bring the Williams logo a lot closer to the original logo that they had back in 1977. And here's something about Williams that you might not remember. Williams used to be one of the premier teams in Formula One. Williams has won 9 constructors championships. Did you know that? They've won 7 drivers championships, and I think they've won like 114 races. So they're trying to get back to that former glory, and that starts with the logo in 2026. All right, well, I've been Dalton. This has been the Petrolist, and you have been great. Thanks for watching, and I will see you after Brazil. I'm out.